the Flyers have a number of guys who are going to have to kind of bounce back this year, right? They have, just kind of thinking off the top of my head, Trey Sermon would be one. There's Mike McGlinchey. There's a number of players coming off of injuries, Tarvarius Moore, for example. When you look at this roster, the 49ers need blank. So this would be which player to have a bounce back season this year and be good.
Man. There's a guy that I would prefer to have a bounce back season to be good. But I don't think they need him to be good. I think if he has a bounce back season, then they're elite. And so I think they're going to be good regardless. So I'm going to say this guy's name and just use it in a little bit of a different context. If Jason Verrett comes back and can be Jason Verrett, this team is elite, in my opinion, because that secondary is arguably the best secondary in the league. When you got Ward on one side, Verrett on the other, maybe Mosley moves in to be the nickel, or he's a depth piece, however you want to shuffle that. That's a scary defense on top of Bosa, Armstead, and then the wave of defensive linemen that you can throw at a quarterback. I think this team's going to be good, even if, a couple of these guys don't, quote unquote, bounce back. But they can be elite, I believe, if Jason Verrett bounces back.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That isn't even one that I really thought of, but Verrett, absolutely. If Verrett can come back and start, that's a big one. That for me, and this is going to be funny, if you've followed what I've been writing and what I've been saying long enough, you might want to bonk me on the head with this one. But for me, the 49ers, they need Mike McGlinchey to come back and have a bounce back season.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
They need him more than anything. And it's, and part of the thing is everybody's focus has been on the left guard and the center because those guys are no longer with the team. They have guys that I think can fill in those spots. And they have guys that can fill in at right tackle also for a short period of time. But they don't have anybody that I feel that's going to be able to be out there and play 17 weeks at a high enough level for them. They can get around it, the interior guys, but when you start getting those, the edge rushers are where the money's made in the NFL. And I think that McGlinchey needs to come in and he needs to have a big season. If you go back to last year, for example, I know we hammer this guy, right? We hammer Mike McGlinchey. We rip on him. We say that he's a better run blocker than a pass blocker, all those kind of things. When he was on the field last year for the 49ers, they, in terms of sacks allowed, they gave up sacks. It was a 4.9% sack rate on dropbacks. When he was not on the field, and that 4.9% would have been sixth or seventh best in the league if they had been able to carry that out for the whole season. That dropped down to 7 over the second half of the year. They ended up averaging out when we put everybody together was at 6, but that's a big difference between those two. And with Trey Lance, I know he has the ability to move and all those types of things, but again, that's a spot that you really want to have solidified as your tackles, your edges, and allow him to be able to step up and move instead of just getting blown off the edge. So for me, it's McGlinchey. Even in the run game, they were better in the run game with him than they were with Compton. The difference wasn't as much, but they were still better.
I think that's a great pick because there are certainly question marks in the interior of the offensive line. Now, maybe those question marks pan out. We really don't know. That's why it's a question mark because we're unsure. But if McGlinchey can bookend with Williams, they're in a really, really good spot, right? Because that means if McGlinchey's at his best and Williams is at his best, Kittle can go out for routes, and you can double team on the interior side of the line to make sure that you keep Trey Lance upright. So, yeah, I think that is a great pick. Absolutely.
Yeah, the other part of it, too, and I'm also basing it off the fact that they kept putting Jalen Moore out there at right tackle during OTAs, and he wasn't working as the ones, but he was rotated in there. Justin School did an okay job, but when you put Jalen Moore out there, he really struggled. He was a much better guard than he was at tackle, and I'd be okay with School, but if they decide, the thing is, there's going to be a numbers crunch along that offensive line, and somebody asked me here if I think the offensive line room is bad. Here it is. Dusty Gold asked if the offensive line is our weakest room. I feel like the offensive line is a very strong room, but it's deep and they have guys that can play. But if I'd rather have McGlinchey than School, and I'd rather definitely have School than Moore. I think that it's when you start to get down to 8 or 9, which is all you're going to have, because all these guys they can't keep them all. That's when it starts to become mixing and matching. That's going to be really tough to figure out how they're going to do that. And I'm glad I'm not figuring it out. Leave that to my Chris Forster.
Yeah, I mean it's strong in depth and probably the one room that has the most question marks. And so, but again, question marks don't necessarily mean that the answer is negative. We just don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with the question marks. I'm a little bit more positive on it than some other folks, but yeah, there's definitely question marks there. I feel good about Aaron Banks. I don't know about center. That's the position I think I'm most worried about. But maybe it's gonna maybe all the talk about Brendel is going to be for not, and it's going to end up being Brunskill, and Jalen Moore is going to be the right guard. Who knows? We'll see how this plays out.
Right.
But